Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian says the country is in a full-scale war with its enemies as protests over the currency devaluation persist. State media say people tried to break into a local government building in southwest Fars province. President Pezeshkian blames external forces for the economic crisis and is calling for Iranians to stay united. Authorities in the Islamic Republic have cracked down on past protests, but this time the government is offering dialogue.
Sitting alone, a protester faces down a police motorcade in Tehran. Surrounded by tear gas, the protester refuses to move. A moment captured on video that has now been seen around the world. Many observers are comparing this protest to one almost 4 decades ago, when a man now famously faced a column of tanks in Beijing during the deadly Tiananmen Square crackdown in 1989. But some experts say this is just one of many acts of defiance happening in Iran.
I do believe that Iran, since 2019, had so many Tiananmen moments. But unfortunately, especially in the Western world, we turned blind eye at it. We have seen these images far too many times, to the point that really people have lost hope in being able to send this message across that they do reject the Islamic Republic rule in the country.
Protests started on Sunday, with shopkeepers taking to the streets, angry about rising inflation and the devaluation of Iran's currency against the US dollar. The demonstrations have now grown to become the largest since the wave of protests that rocked the country following the death of Mahsa Amini in police custody in 2022. And now Iran's government says it is listening to the people and wants to restore calm.
The government will listen patiently, even if there are harsh voices, because we believe that our people are patient enough, and when their voices are raised, the pressure that is being put on them is high. The government's job is to hear the voices and help them reach a common understanding to solve the problems that exist in society.
Authorities have shown a more restrained response to protests in recent months. A shift that analysts have linked to the conflict with Israel over the last year, and efforts to maintain domestic support. But with an economic crisis engulfing Iran, driving the unrest, their patience may soon wear thin.
Well, Sara Kermanian is a researcher in international relations at the University of Sussex. She joins us from Brighton in the UK. Welcome to DW. How widespread are these protests?
Thank you for inviting me. So the recent protests have primarily emerged from small traders and lower strata of the bazaar, as your colleague just said. They have been less widespread in the sense that, unlike the previous movement, which started from the margin, this one started in Tehran, and now it is kind of spreading throughout the country to an extent. And it was in response to severe currency fluctuations and monetary and economic policies that have placed disproportionate pressure on them. So basically, these people have been the main actors in the recent movement, even though others are also joining them. But this is the reason that we see, for instance, fewer women are participating in this round of movements, although in universities, because the student movement in some cities have also joined. They are kind of changing the gender balance to an extent, but compared to the previous one, this one is mostly the movement of the small traders and lower strata of the bazaar.
And so are protests about Iran's soaring cost of living necessarily anti-regime protests?
We can hear lots of anti-regime voices because people do see the state. The sanctions, a combination of sanctions, monetary policies, and also rent-based economy is what people see responsible for their situation. And for this reason, we can hear lots of anti-state movements, anti-state voices and slogans.
Right. So the argument goes that if it wasn't for the way that you are running the country and dealing with the likes of the United States and Israel, the country would not be in this problem. Can you give us an idea?
Yes, that is exactly.
Could you give us an idea?
They basically do see the state as kind of very ill-qualified and very malfunctioning to address these issues.
Understood. Could you give us an idea of how difficult daily life is for Iran's population?
It is pretty tough. Recent statistics show that, for instance, the inflation of food alone has been 2.5 times higher than the rise in income, in the minimum income. So there is so much pressure on people. But in terms of how it has affected these kind of small traders and shopkeepers particularly, the thing is that Iran has adopted a multi-tier exchange rate system in response to the sanctions and the issues coming with it, under which major importers receive cheaper foreign currency. And since many of these people are also major exporters, so they benefit from higher rates in the free market, they also manipulate the market to increase the currency's dollars, basically rates sometimes, which is something that has happened recently. Dollar has hit the highest rate so far. And it's exerted the greatest pressure on a smaller scale merchants. That is one reason that these people are at the front line of uprisings this time.
The response of the government has been interesting. President Pezeshkian's call for dialogue with protesters. We heard in the report the government spokeswoman say that the government will listen patiently even to harsh voices. This is not what we've come to expect from such a repressive regime.
Yes, you need to actually make a distinction between those kind of voices in Iran that are kind of advocating for women's rights or the rights of marginalized people, those kind of voices, with those who are mostly kind of, at least the majority of voices is coming from the market. And in such cases, usually the state is more prepared to address them. And also it is kind of fair to say that they are better anticipating these kind of uprisings, because when they increase the rate of currency, then they can foresee, for instance, these kind of unrests are happening. And in order to control them, and in order to prevent the spread of the movement towards other strata of other kind of social groups, they often are prepared to, and this has been the case this time. We saw that, for instance, the central bank is quickly, the head of the central bank is replaced. Conciliatory proposals are made to calm the market. And these are all to kind of, on the one hand, to kind of calm the market, to prevent the spread of these protests to other social groups. But also some analysts are kind of guessing that probably basically the recent fluctuations in the currency's rate itself has been a sign of internal tensions within the state. So basically, maybe they were kind of trying to replace particular kind of making some power shifts, maybe. Right. And that is the reason they have been very prepared to address them with kind of patience.
Thank you so much for talking us through that, Sara. Sara Kermanian from the University of Sussex.